The older you get, the younger you realise you actually are. Final Fantasy X is saturated in atmosphere, and it never truly lets you leave Spira. It's a one-of-a-kind experience that I'm very glad was my first FF game ever. I made fun of video essay guys for overusing the word masterpiece for anything that they can fit into a console without breaking the thing, but I'll concede also that some games are, and this is. Final Fantasy X came out 1,000 years ago, and it's weird in a way that makes me feel excited about life again. The main character acts like his brain is made of ham sandwich, and the sphere grid looks like the periodic table of elements to the line of Coke. There's even a sphere that lets you teleport.
Teleport! Great work, Mario, you did it again, you saved us. As you see, Mario's getting extremely top.
It's an apology from the year 2001 for going away and leaving me alone in this cold, dark wasteland of a digital age. So I guess FFX is the evening sunset of Final Fantasy. The end and the beginning of many things, as the series entered a new age, a new console and new dimensions, fully 3D now. There's a running theme that I've seen online that it's just a goofy game from the old days, but it really isn't. It's just honest, in this attempt to be a compelling, emotional story. Yet it never drowns under the weight of it. That's like all the characters, it can breathe underwater just fine. The game's ability to generate emotion is among the best in the series. Okay, I'll say it. There's a special, unquantifiable something about FFX that goes well beyond words and into the abstract. It's in the nostalgic tropical aesthetic, where everything looks like it tastes like magical mangoes. The deceptively calm colours, to the point you can almost feel the sun and the wind on your face. The soundtrack that generates both natural and synthetic tones in order to fuse together music that's strong enough to lift the emotional scenes. From good enough to really good, and that wanky underwater football game that I really don't like. So prepare yourself for some of the best music, character dynamics, and soul that you'll ever see in an FF game.
Damn the outbid!
I'm not exaggerating, it's incredible. The writers weren't afraid to let a scene play out slowly and just happen, most prominently found in the esoteric weirdness of the game, and its bilateral approach to being weird and also really grounded at the same time. And whatever the hell these bird people even are. The voice acting's great, the dialogue is exceptional, and it's committed to being bright and colourful, even in its darker moments, to the point I genuinely wonder if it's intentionally done, with how it ties into the themes and the narratives of the game. Marching on in the face of hopelessness. I like that kind of story, that's why I liked 13. Really terrible though that Final Fantasy X would copy 13's narrative like that. The linear nature of the game might be the best take on linearity that I've ever seen in a game. Pseudo-linearity, if only 13 copied 10 in that regard. But there's this intrinsic axiom that binds together all of this wanky weirdness into a kino cringe cartography. It's all grounded by some of the most believable and down-to-earth characters I've ever gotten attached to, even with their stupid clothes. Sure, they look like crack smoking traffic lights or someone dropped a bag of Skittles, but they're fun and wholesome and realistic. Some of the writing and storytelling is literally on the level of any movie or book. The themes are painfully poignant and honest, and it's not an empty statement. It's crazy and it's spectacular, but it's not afraid to shut the hell up and be quiet when it needs to, for instance to let a moment breathe. However, today we will be looking at the remaster, which is actually a demaster. I decided to look at just how bad the faces were in this one compared to the OG, and I guess they outsourced it to the bhed because it's bad enough that we got to deal with the chocobo exploitation and a minigame that almost makes me hate the word lightning. But all the emotional punctuation of Yuna's angry face or Tidus' stupid face are all gone now. He looks stoned. Most of them look stoned, actually. Now they all have Instagram face. They've been yassified. Now Yuna just carries the perennial weight of disaster via a facial vacancy, except a few moments, and Tidus looks ill, as well as stoned. And Wakka, I mean, he always looked stupid anyway on account of the toaster accident haircut, and he might be a distant ancestor of Ignis, but now he looks stupid and crazy. He scares me. But the PS2 version cost 27 quid and it'd take about a month to get here, so this is the PS4 remaster that was originally released on the PS2 and eventually ported to the PS3 and the PS4, being played on the PS5, praise be the Evan brother. FF10 is the paragon of soul that I've been pointing to every time my logical reasoning asks me exactly why it is I dedicate inordinate amounts of time to writing about games instead of doing normie things like getting laid. In other words, it's another stupid essay about another bastarding video game, and today we look at happiness. Happiness. The happiness and insanity of the before times, the early 2000s, and it was my first Final Fantasy game. The archaic JRPG-isms of yesteryear are bringing the cozy today. I played it initially in 2017 as my introduction to the franchise. An immediate burst of warmth hit me in my fragile, emo, PlayStation 2 Game Boy Color soul. A great big early 2000s hug engulfing me like the tropical island sunny beach aesthetic of the game. It's funny too, because I never played it in 2001. Maybe it resonates because I was around and played many adjacent games and I understand the time. But in an age now where gaming is literally a shared hobby or even a career, back in those days it was a deeply personal experience. Gaming was different back then. I think it's better to have your intelligence tested rather than insulted. Insulted these days, certainly, since every little intricacy of modern gaming has yellow paint pointing you in its direction and telling you what to do with it. Maybe it's more than just a beach aesthetic though, and the keep music, but also the fact that running parallel to all of this in FF10 is that constant reassurance that the devs weren't frightened to do what they wanted to do, and that gaming hadn't sold out yet and sold its soul. They had a vision for this game. It has an identity. Within the linear lines of the storytelling, there isn't a single point in the game where I find myself being disjointed or jaded or burned out apart from literally one, and that was the endgame, which requires a lot of grinding. But right up until then, the pacing is solid as a result. Maybe everything's so dull now because we're dull, but back then we had passion, colour was still cool to us, people didn't look at the great British sky and get inspired to make the most monotone and eternally grey video game that ever reigned. And so I turned my attention to the idiosyncratic linearity of Final Fantasy X and the ideas behind the ideas, because I got unfinished business with that sphere grid. It's as much a remnant of a bygone era as it is an entity which enhances the modern day. A fair few game series couldn't make that jump from the PS1 to the PS2. Crash Bandicoot and Spyro struggled, so it's experimental, with the weird camera angles and the sound effects, and I wouldn't change a thing. And it's far from perfect. Things like Wakka's racism are treated far too safely, and it is a guide game, but we will look at all of this as balanced as we always do on this channel, as fairly as we can. Upon its release on the PS2, the mecca of gaming that will never ever be eclipsed, it was surrounded by absolute classics like Metal Gear Solid 2, Grand Theft Auto 3, and other games I probably don't know about, but it still stood out. 24 years later, here we go. So let's go back to the early 2000s. I'm so excited for this one that I'm deliberately stopping it from becoming a 4-hour video. Last thing I want to do is burn myself out and hate it. It's a wonderful game, but it ain't perfect. Let's do it. Basta! This opening is the most melancholy opening I've ever seen in a game. You can tell it's serious, but not why, when it doesn't overstay its welcome. Tidus establishes himself as narrator, and immediately demands that we listen to his story. But then we get one up on him because suddenly we're in the past in Zanarkand, and it's nearly time for a shitsball game, and we get to choose his name. First time round, I called him SJW, but I avoid politics because people annoy me. So this time I went with something far less controversial and called him Diddy. The opening monologue by Zanar, and yeah, it's Auron's VA, and yeah, it's short for Zanarkand, is a good bit of foreshadowing and symbolism, I think, for Tidus and Jecht's relationship. Sorry, Diddy and Jecht. Ironically, it was the story of Jecht himself that brought Zanar and his father together for a while, which is almost certainly a good foreshadow and analogy for how Tidus and his dad will eventually reconcile somewhat at the end of the game, and all of the emphasis they're going to put on this father-son relationship. It's realistic too, from the start, right the way to the end. Things don't just get better immediately when shit runs this deep, it takes time. In many ways, FFX is as much a story about a father and a son as it is a love story between Diddy and Yuna. I'll probably just call him Tidus when I'm being less silly. When I did first play this one, I remember vividly the first time I got here and how it left me stun-locked for a little while. Sort of unsure what I was looking at, but loving it. You know how magic everything felt. It feels like a dreamscape, this sequence. And if you know the story, you're probably going, well, yeah, it makes sense, isn't it? It's a dream. The walkways, the adjacent buildings, and the entire city are insanely pretty. Somehow, it manages to both peripheralize the entire city and also bring it to the center and make it the focal point, which I think is really clever. All of how uniquely structuralized it is. It's one of the most beautiful things I've seen in a game. And it makes you feel like you're literally on top of the world, which is a unique paradigm to set so early into a game, especially with a JRPG wherein it's often the other way around. It's a fantasy game, and it makes that known right from the offset, with something that feels as futuristic as it does retro. It doesn't matter if it's the most unsafe structure in the history of civilization and doesn't have safety rails. It looks really cool, and it feels speckle and magical. The music is instantly inviting too. It starts out with a pleasant synthesizer that's as airy and spacious as the area we're in, and it runs through the entire game, both visually and audibly as well. And then a chill acoustic guitar plays, so again it's blending genres and vibes in a way that makes it really unique. It's standing out in every single way in terms of sight and sound. It's a fantastic opening if you really love the artistic direction of it. The music of FFX is like a journey from the North Pole to the South Pole. Commonalities, polarities, sometimes light, sometimes dark. There's an innocence to the soundtrack due to the hopefulness buried within the notes and the chords, I think, and even with how heavy things can get in the story. That runs through the game like a current as well, like a tide. This strict adherence to making a synthesis of sight and sound is so coherent throughout the entire experience that even Besaid's theme alone drags this idea into the light and cannonballs it into that beautiful tropical aesthetic. Uematsu was in charge of the soundtrack, but note also the presence of my boy Masashi Hamauzu. If I'm saying that wrong, don't make fun of me. He did Final Fantasy XIII after this, and he wrote for some of this game too, including Wandering Flame. That was all Masashi. He's the sole credit for that one, as well as Servants of the Mountain, and a few others later on. So I imagine Square instantly knew, okay, this guy's a genius musically, we need to give him his own game. But instead of 12, it ended up being 13, and I'm glad it was. It's really cool as someone who loves 13 to death, to see the dude's earlier days in the company and know that he finally got to do his own soundtrack later down the line. Especially now that I know that he worked on one of the few soundtracks in the series that come anywhere close to 13 for me. Now the remaster does include the option to pick between either the original OST or this rearrangement. And while some of the newer versions are actually alright, I found the recurring theme to be a removal of the soul of these tracks. Modern arrangements of older tracks usually just mean more orchestral, basically. And so the prevalence of synthesizers and the bass that was so integral to the magic of the early 2000s are almost always gutted. That said, Wandering Flame sounds really nice with this rearrangement, and via Purifico has an interesting take on things. So it's worth a listen on YouTube. Some of these rearranged tracks are actually very nice, and I appreciate the option to also choose between the two on the fly in the pause menu so that I'm not missing out by not playing the PS2 version. It's a great addition. The sound design is incredible throughout. In fact, the sound of the UI, the fireflies, the ambience, the atmosphere, everything, it all feels vibrant and warm like a tropical beach. This is shitball, and it's a thing that exists, and so is this song. I like it, even if it is stupid. I think I like it because it's stupid. The shitball game quickly goes to hell and a giant bubbly storm appears, but so does Auron, who helps us escape. This is our tutorial to combat. Eventually Auron whisks us up into Sin's bumhole and we turn into a potato salad in the sky, going all wibbly and wobbly before disappearing. The barge temple means we are officially now in current day Spira, and it's an easy enough opening dungeon. Perfect music too, oppressive, lonely, perfect for a dude who just got isekai'd. Other than that, unwinnable boss fight. It's a really solitary beginning to the game. Riku, not yet named, helps us out, then our mates knock us out. We wake up on their boat and are asked to go on a salvage mission underwater. This place is wonderful, and so is the music. And so is Diddy, just smacking the control panel to open the door. It works though, he's a forward thinker. Trigger commands are opened up to us in this boss battle, and Diddy works well with Riku. These two have a good dynamic throughout the game, like annoying twins. It works. Diddy tells Riku everything, but she says Zanarkand was destroyed 1,000 years ago, and Sin, with his toxin, has made us loopy. And then Sin knocks us out. We appear in the sea and we're stranded, but there's a blitzball. Sorry, a shitsball. So immediately we feel better. It's Wakka and his bum buddies. The worst shitsball team in the world. Also, Tidus is very naive and optimistic. I just call him Tidus again. We're going to alternate between Tidus and Diddy. You can expect it now. But it is a perfect juxtaposition to his more grizzled sounding narration voice. It's cool to have this insight into his head, and they never overdo it with him butting in too much. Wakka adopts us as his little brother and shows us around Besaid. He pushes Diddy into the water and tells us how shit at blitzball he is, and the two have a similar energy. The character dynamics are great in this game.
Victory.
What's that?
Wakka's deal is he hates the hour bed, which Riku is one of. His reasoning seems to be Yu Yevon is the god of the world, and his teachings are absolute. And one of those teachings is that machines, or machina, are what led Sin to destroying Zanarkand. But we're in Besaid for now, so who cares about that? The Sea of Spira is more pretty than any modern game's ocean for me, regardless of the 4K and the anti-whatever aliasing blah blah blah, and the anisotrophic who gives a shit of the modern age. Give me a PS2, give me a SCART cable, give me a fuzzy CRT TV, it wins every time. The things that make these waters and the rest of the game so beautiful and soulful is not an abstract, but rather a tangible, perceivable phenomenon. Passion. You can see it, you can feel it in this game. Now the reason that passion was allowed to take precedence over whatever the higher-ups wanted is because of the times, sure, but the entity itself was just there inherently. There are new games for passionate developers, absolutely. Talking about the aesthetics and vibes of any video game world in a way that does them justice, at least, is difficult because some are going to vibe with you and some won't get it. But this setting might be the best in any game ever for me. If not, then it's right up there. I can't think of anything better in terms of a setting for a video game. The theme of Besaid, its first few notes hit, and I'm instantly back in Spira in my head even when I'm not playing it. How hard it is to explain just why it is so insanely gorgeous with its rich lore and its presence It's annoying in a way that I can't explain it, but hopefully I've gotten it across. And it will speak for itself as we explore it in this video. From the cold and archaic to the warm and the vibrant, it has it all. It can't be done in one video. I'll never be able to fully explain it because these worlds live on in our minds for years and years. They're a part of us, essentially. But hopefully I can show enough of it here as I gush about just about every area in the game. I think they call it high fantasy because you have to be high on something to create something like this. This is where the divide is, the dividing line between the old FF games and new ones. The newer games are terrified of going back to such alien concepts as these in the modern day. They're after that hyper-realism now, fantasy based on reality. Once again, both are fine with me, but it's nice to go back again, because there's no such thing as a modern audience, and they knew that back then. It's just the audience, and that is a timeless concept, just as this is a timeless game. It has an almost dissociative quality to it, the retro stuff. I mentioned on the FF15 video that urban fantasy has a nice vibe to it, but it's really just a matter of what mood you're in. Lately, I'm in a high fantasy mood. Tomorrow, I might be back in Final Fantasy 15 land. I think that the state of the real world will always dictate whether one's brain prefers the fantasy aspect to be turned up a little, or to the absolute maximum crazy bollocks. Real world's crazy lately, so in my escapism, I really like the high fantasy stuff right now. You ever get that? It represents another world. This is just different, but overwhelmingly different. Somewhere in between weird little bird-looking dudes and the Guado, who are tree people. FFX goes full ham with the fantasy stuff, with a way that makes it feel disconcerting too, sometimes, with the urban climbs in 15 feel unsettling at times too, due to the uncanny nature of such an experience, branded a fantasy based in reality. This is a fantasy based in fantasy, or maybe a fantasy based on a drug trip. Today I'm into it, and I'm dissociating pleasantly, with a smile and a blitzball ticket, because this is as good as it gets, man. Gimari is like a cat, sums it up, doesn't it? Whereas in real life we sit in our generic homes and our generic rooms, on our generic streets, all painted in the most insidiously innocuous colours you can imagine, and also do our soulless day-to-day grind, but FFX has nothing but colour. The tropical beaches, the sheer existence of magic and the normality of it, the diversity of different species, the bhed and their weird wanky language. Isms aren't often my favourite thing, but video games provide a veritable plethora of their own little idiosyncrasies and charmed little pockets of uniqueness. The PS2, I'm saying, was really very good at this. And it shows up in more than just the early 2000s obsession with tropical islands and beaches and bodies of water. It also means you don't have turbo mode, but it's a trade I accept. Also another area in which this transmogrification of reality shines is the segmented nature of older games, all via smaller levels while also being huge enough to provide a diverse array of geographical archetypes, alongside multiple relay points to keep them all interconnected, which adds a cohesion to the world space. That's the airship later on, and the world map. But you've got to earn that. It creates a balance and a harmony in this fictional world, and that in turn leads to it feeling much more real in general, in diametric opposition to the fact that deep down, it really is just a selection of cell areas, of levels, of small maps, all of which are partitioned by loading screens. Well, that and a couple of deep breaths when you're wondering if your game just crashed because you finally beat Seymour without the wings to discovery. The smaller levels, the occasional large ones, like the Calm Lands for instance, all exist side by side in unison, but technically as separate as it gets. It speaks not only to the creativity of the world design, but also their practicality. And it's one thing to be beautiful, but occasionally in games, especially modern ones, things don't seem to flow from one area to another quite right. Maybe the environments don't quite match up, or maybe it's just too similar. But 10 strikes the balance perfectly, and even uses this small level paradigm to its advantage. The PS2 was a long time ago. That's profoundly difficult to admit, it makes me feel old, but it is true. I look younger than I am anyway, it's okay to be old. The older we get, the younger we realise we are. I came up with that quote while I was eating a sandwich. That's the second time that's happened. Sandwiches are like, philosophy for me. But yeah, it was a long time ago. Okay, and back in the early noughties, as we called them, memory was a prized possession for game developers, as in memory data and memory cards could only do so much to weather the battering that gamers took every day in that memory card section, reticently attempting to balance the save files in a way as to achieve PS2 memory card equilibrium, which in no uncertain terms is an old world skill that we gamers employ as a tactic so that we could have the longer JRPGs coexist with the other games in a way that would fill the bloody memory card up. Well, there were bigger ones, but that took a while. It's like analog sticks. We had to earn them. With pain. Even the open world games from back in the day. Activision had a few like Gun and Tony Hawk's American Wasteland, which I played the shit out of. They were great. They had open world maps that, while seemingly very large, pale in comparison to what we have now, relative to newer games, and the memory they're allotted. The pacing feels great for it too, in 10. But back with the story of the temple. Diddy does not listen to the priest guy because he learns of Yuna performing a summoning, and is worried that this lady might die. But because of this, a cloister of trials happens. Oh boy. These are annoying, and my least favourite part of the game, alongside the endgame grinding, so I'm going to be real expedient in detailing them. I'm trying to keep this essay short after all. They're essentially puzzle dungeons, and I use a guide for every single one of them. I don't enjoy them. It is, however, worth getting the destruction spheres for all of them, because then you can get Anima, and he is a very powerful summon. So I'd recommend a YouTube guide. It only takes a few minutes each, unless you want to go insane. Or maybe you really like puzzles, which I think are the same thing actually. Valfor is ours. Welcome Queef. I love him. Together we take over the world. Yuna's design, alongside her character and being a summoner, is possibly the coolest Final Fantasy character design for a female, next to Lightning and Auron from 13 to 15. It's actually that good. And this look is iconic. Compare it to Lulu with her 50 chastity belts and she looks even cooler. Diddy and Yuna talk for the first time, and they're obviously into each other from the get-go. It's a nice first conversation. On our way out, Wakka confides in us about his late brother Chapu, and then gives us his sword, which is literally made of water, like Wakka's head, actually. Kimari, whom I will now call Kimi because it's easier, it saves me a syllable each time, attacks us, which I think is to test us. I mean, that's obviously what it is. And then we all take off to begin the pilgrimage. Yuna, our summoner lady, has to travel to every temple in Spira and pray. At least that's what we're all told for now. It's an excuse to go on an adventure with some friends in a JRPG. That's all we need. We've got our excuse, we can travel the entire world now. Also, if you keep pressing X to bug a Kimari, he'll eventually get annoyed with you and push you. Video games. These chocobos are being exploited and I wish to free them, but they'll probably die out there in the wild. It is a cruel world. Yuna tells Diddy that Jecht was her father's guardian, and the two slowly realise that Jecht is probably still alive. Once again, the character dynamics are great in this game. It's really cool to be playing an FF game with loads of party members that all bounce off of each other in unique ways. It's really missing in some newer games. Any two people might have an interesting relationship with one another, except like Auron and Lulu. It's cool. Even when tidus Diddy gets knocked overboard and knocked out, Wakka dives in to save him. Immediately these guys feel like a close-knit unit, and it doesn't even feel rushed. Obviously Wakka doesn't want Tidus ended up like his brother. Wakka, Riku and Tidus being the sillier ones, who trust real easy, makes a lot of sense. Lulu and Auron are more mature, Yuna's very mature, and Kimari is Kimari. Dreams of Fronso soup. And then the boat is attacked by Sin. You can farm these Sin spawn thingies here if you're a little crazy, if you want to be a little over leveled, get a bunch of the common drop spears. And then Kilika gets it, Sin just levels the place. It's the first instance of the game getting real dark, which, contrasted with a lively and peaceful aesthetic, really hits hard. They combine the two well. Tidus realises that he's stuck here at this point and Wandering Flame plays for the first time, which is my favourite song of the game, and one of my favourites in the entire series.
Filled with grief over their own death, they refuse to face their fate. They yearn to live on, and resent those still alive. You see, they envy the living. And in time, that envy turns to anger, even hate. Sad, isn't it?
This transition to 3D is done really well, with sound effects, and so is the transition to 3D in these series as well, with FFX being the first fully voiced, fully 3D Final Fantasy game, albeit with some odd background stuff. I feel like this era of games really set the precedence that many games would use going forward, not just Final Fantasy games, with a focus on storytelling. While the opening 5 or so hours is very cutscene heavy in this game, there's more than enough gameplay in the game to counteract that, whereas nowadays many game directors want to be movie directors. My goal today is to keep this essay below 4 hours, but I gotta mention this song, Spira Unplugged, how good it is. It's got the motif, or is it motif? I don't know, from Yuna's theme, like many of the songs do, but it's this hopeful acoustic rendition, and I like that it plays the morning after. It feels refreshing. Despite how awful yesterday was, which I think sums up the people in this story. You get depressingly used to a bleak life, but we march on. Wakka says something similar when Diddy asks if it's really the time for blitzball, but you distract Wakka from the bed hatred. He has that Wakka wisdom, you know? He's right though, if we stopped dead in our tracks every time we got knocked down, we'd be stuck on the ground forever. And before you say, Luke, what would you know about hardship? You're only 82 years old. I live in England. I don't know. I literally moved to Spira with Sin to get that Spira weather.
Not a guardian then. I just want him nearby.
The music's so good in this game. I mentioned this song in my Lightning Returns video, and how it's one of the very few Final Fantasy tracks to include a mellotron, which is a rather old musical invention that sounds like a warped old flute. Once you hear it, it is unmistakable. It's one of the most recognizable sounds in the digital music age. In Lightning Returns, it plays during Angel's Tears. If you're after another song like it, you should go look that up. Shame the music is interrupted by a loud smashing sound and a glass sound effect. It's a jump scare. Oh, true now, so it is time to talk combat. You know that wanky battle system from the old days? Turn-based, that's it. I like it more now. All because of FF10. It used to feel like a midnight stomachache as a kid, this turn-based stuff, and then I learned to tolerate it. Like you might tolerate broccoli. But now that I've fully suspended my disbelief and no longer have to dwell on the existential anomalies within this inherently idiosyncratic medium we call gaming, I found a level of symbiosis with it, and found myself genuinely enjoying how deep this stuff goes, and how it compelled me to pick it apart at the molecular level. The most difficult games that you'll play are the ones that don't give you the luxury of a difficulty setting. And if you don't take the time to become acclimated to every little esoteric nuance of this game, then certain bosses are going to humble you and break your back. And I like that nowadays. Lock me in the room of the game, force me to become one with it, that way I can assimilate entirely within the world of the game and escape this modern dystopia. I've said it enough times, a fun combat and progression system in a game can be either action or turn-based. I've said it so many times. But it's in the intricacies and the dynamism and the amount of player agency it allows that you find the fun, I think, and that you forge that bond with the game. This one really lets you go deep. And it's a nice antidote to the fact that Final Fantasy XVI was the last FF game I played. Turn-based games are just a bunch of people having the most civilized fight ever and waiting their turn. They fight like British people queue. I did miss elemental attacks, and oddly enough, more than that, I missed color-coded enemies that act as visual tells, pushing you in the right direction without having to go into a sub-menu. It's certainly true that action combat feels quicker and more exciting, but sometimes you get a little burned out of that. Even my favourite flavour of milkshake that I loved very passionately became less incredible when I started having it every day. You can't just whomp the X button and easy mode your way to the finish line. I've seen videos where men of hard science apply mathematical principles to the innate parameters of this game's battle system that make my head spin like a kicked blitzball. The battle system goes hard in this game, and that's fun in its own unique way. Sometimes you need a degree of tactical challenge, engaging your brain in new ways to keep things fresh and crazy, which is why video games came about to begin with. If we were this civilized in the real world and fought in turn-based wars, I imagine everyone would have gotten bored and gone home. Final Fantasy X is truly the fable of humanity. You might even say it broke me. But the combat system goes so deep that I'll never truly get to the bottom of it, and I'm totally fine with that. There are so many ways to optimize for the late game bosses that any two people that you talk to will probably say that they did it in their own unique way. That's it. Knowing that some of the best setups require 50 flickety flams and 30 biddly diddlies that will take you 50 to 70 hours to get means that it's a case of how far you're willing to take it. How far are you willing to go with it, is the question. And you can still beat the main story without even touching the optional bosses. It's about choice, like most features of this game. If you're curious, you can look up all of it on the uppercase I internet. Levels don't work like they usually do. You get spears. Spears! Damn it. Spheres. Sorry. For the sphere grid, to unlock certain thingies as opposed to a traditional level. With the exception of bosses, it's random encounters though, and they suck in this game in how they're implemented. They interrupt the music. It's not really a game that you can like sit down with and chill until you become acclimated to it, but even then it still gets me. I'm just a jumpy person. The screen literally shatters. I realise it now that the perfect version of the enemy encounter system is actually in 13.2. 13.2 of all things. Just a halfway point, giving you a lenient window to avoid a battle if you want to, and the music shifts dynamically to something just a little bit more intense. But this is the old days and you can get used to it to a degree, but if you have a heart attack, well, unlucky. The fun thing about overdrives is that they're unlocked by doing things rather than just leveling up. Second most fun thing is the variants with which you unlock these particular thingies. They're similar to limit breaks in how they function, specifically the ones in FF7 are coming to mind. Bear in mind something I never saw coming, which is that even though you can unlock multiple overdrives for each character, they don't replace the preceding ones, rather they expand your current selection. This is wonderful. But it goes even deeper than that. There are even overdrive modes, which affect how and when your overdrive gauge charges. I found a good way to get your overdrive up quickly is to go into an easy battle, cast haste, and do the one where it gives you a bit of overdrive every turn. Ah, the sphere grid. I was excited to see you again. Look at it. Look at it. Circuit board of insanity right here, the sphere grid. It looks like my brain after I put all those drugs in it as a teenager. To illustrate the flexibility and customization that this system possesses, we won't exactly be doing a no sphere grid challenge, because the fact that it's even possible to begin with, despite being a hard game for me, is the greatest compliment I could possibly throw its way. That, and I'm not good enough to do it. The mere fact that you can complete a no sphere grid challenge, but also struggle to complete the game even with said sphere grid, is perhaps the most concrete testament to the fluid nature of this system. It's as RPG as RPG gets, and it encourages many different shades of agency in the player. It even holds your hand a little bit at the start by virtue of the party members and their starting positions in the grid relative to the nodes and even the other characters. It's very methodical how they made it, but it's all yours the moment you get your hands on it, and you can take anyone, anywhere, with the only thing holding you back being key spheres. So for this playthrough, I decided to just go with the flow for the most part. The perfect stress test for this theory of mine, taking a cursory glance and just winging it. You'll be given the option of selecting one or two kinds of sphere grid, standard or expert, then you'll Google it quickly if you're new to the game, quickly realizing that standard is better for people who aren't as well versed in the game, and expert, while a bit less powerful as it pertains to the amount of nodes, affords you a great degree of flexibility in how you navigate the system. So for me, standard mode. Obviously, I'm an idiot. I need guidance, brother. But if you like the idea of using your agency and going wild, reading up on this showed me that the level of experimentation in the sphere grid is genuinely incredible. There's no right or wrong sphere grid, it's just what you prefer, and I think that's where the replayability comes into view. Leveling is unique because it's a choice, just a grid of sphere thingies with innate abilities that you can unlock, statistical parameters, moves. For each of those stats, a corresponding sphere exists to raise it. After looking into it, it seems that the level cap for the vast majority of these stats is 255. I do so miss the ephemeral and beautiful arbitrary nature of the old games. 255, why the hell not, right? But what isn't arbitrary is how well constructed this sphere grid system is. If you want to do the normal, easier route, just follow the obvious path by looking at the abilities. Yunas will have healing abilities, for instance, and if you want to go a bit crazy, take Kimari down Lulu's path instead of Riku's. Everyone I speak to, they're like, oh, I took him down Riku's, and I'm like, yeah, I did too at first, but then I took him down Lulu's. And now I've got entry-level black magic spells for 2 people in the early game. And so I just wing it from here. Eventually you get all these cool spheres, and the moment you get double cast for Lulu, you can just teleport Yuna there and get it there too. You can give Lulu Holy, you can give Yuna the cool black magic, and she later gets a weapon that halves all MP cost. Basically, I think Yuna's better than Lulu in pretty much every way, but maybe there's a way Lulu is better. Her evasion is really good for some reason. You think it'd be hard to evade things in that dress, but magic innit? Fireflies, that's it, it's fireflies. As well as key locks from levels 1 through 4. It's harder to deviate, but I like that it forces you to map out the entire grid and blueprint your own methods as to how you want to go about it, whether you wing it or write things down. And seeing that manifest during battle as a cool new move, as well as the sense of progression being paced really well, is a positive for such a simple and complex system. It's whatever you want it to be, and it's a 10 out of 10 RPG leveling system. No 2 playthroughs have to be the same. It's incredible. As someone who doesn't mind if it's easy or simple, I think what I like about this is it can be both. And that's not even the main point about it. It's just fun. And it lets me experiment. It's exactly what I wanted Final Fantasy 16 to be, and moaned about it for not having. A great battle system, a great leveling system says, hey, if you want to go in depth with this, you can, but if you want to play it simple, you also can. It puts the agency back in the player's hands. It's just fantastic, man. Brilliant stuff.
Kimari, oh my god, Dad.
Back with the story. We do defeat Ochu. He did poison things and he farts out like green gas. I don't like him.
Remember, discretion is the better part of valor.
Pussies.
A race, huh? Think you can beat me?
Yuna, if you would.
Ready?
Hey!
Ah, huh? Hey!
Kids.
And we did it without even touching the sphere grid, beyond that tutorial where it forces you into it. We then beat this weird sin thing, as well as using Kimari's piercing ability. We also used Queef's energy blast and some other tricks. Still haven't touched the sphere grid. I'm gonna do it. And then another temple. that we will pretend never happened. Looks pretty from the outside though.
Puzzles. Looking up guides on YouTube.
But we do get a freak, whom I called Nigel.
So, Yuna, wanna come over to my place?
On the boat we have one chance, and one chance alone, to learn this jecht shot for now. I don't know if you get another later, I don't care. It's your best bet at winning the mandatory shitsball game in a bit. After that, Yuna and Diddy talk about having famous dads, and it seems Jecht was a lot nicer to Yuna when he was in Spira 10 years ago. And welcome to Luca.
Their hometown was recently attacked by sin. Isn't that right, Jimmy?
I'm surprised they have any players left, Bob.
Our next team is...
Better.
Principal Skinner debuts, and he has the most ominous music I've ever heard.
Seymour!
He's so obviously a secret bad guy. It's not even a secret. He's here with Maester Micah, who's the leader of all of Spira. Looks a little old, but whatever, Seymour can take over. King Seymour. It's our first big city, and it's fitting, with its blitzball stadium, and it feels alive in a way only old JRPGs can really achieve. Sort of abstract, I know, but I don't really care. It's just a vibe. Yuna and Diddy come up with a whistle signal, which will be important at the end. When one whistles, the other comes running. We stop by a pub and encourage Kimi to punch the two Ronsos, making fun of him, and his cracked horn. And then Yuna's kidnapped by the bed. But we hit a crane with a thunder spell 3 times and win that way. Old JRPGs are fun. Yuna reveals she's half bed, and Lulu's all don't tell Wakka, he hates those guys. But we got help with the next blitzball game anyway. That would be the final, in which we play. But not before some more classic Wakka racism.
How can you let some outbed kidnap you? Don't go near outbed anymore, okay? They're trouble. Those sand plastic.
You're listening to the splendid performance, or as I like to call it, the theme song of a Dance Great update video. I don't enjoy shitsball, but I do love the idea of it in the context of the world it inhabits. I appreciate shitsball, I do. Maybe when I'm 70, I'll be like, yeah, spend a weekend on this. I didn't even know you could recruit people in your team until after I finished the game in my second playthrough. So I guess shitsball is more deep than I realised, about as deep as a toilet, so deep I could drown. But I can't swim, so I couldn't bring myself to go all in with shitsball. I like that it's optional, except for this one mandatory one that is. Even if they did lock Wakka's celestial slot reel thingy behind it, whatever it is best overdrive, I whack my table. I'm not editing it out. But yeah, my issue with shitsball is this. The bed. Yeah, the real reason. It's a turn-based variant of a game that I'd often associate with high-paced, action-packed fun. I play football games for this reason. Games with balls in them are fun because of how frenetic and crazy they are. The energy of a footy game mixed with the tactics of it all is why I'm still addicted to football games today. It's why I'm still addicted to football. My team didn't win a cup for like 17 years, but I couldn't let it go. But the game basically turns it into rugby, is the problem, which I've never been into. It's too stop-starty. But while it being underwater is cool looking, it just makes things slower, and even slower than that is the turn-based nature of it all. I don't mind turn-based as a concept, like I've said, I just don't like it applied to this, but some people probably love it a bit, so I like that it exists for them. You know, I don't have to play it outside of this game. Just saying why I don't like it. If you like it, good for you. You have your blitzball themed wedding when you meet your trad waifu Becky. It's here for you to dive into completely if you feel like it. There's only one mandatory match, and I think the game's surprised whenever you win it, which is probably only because of the jecht shot. But hey, shitsball is probably someone's cup of tea. And I like tea. And I do like how unique it is and it adds to the world it's in. With the tropical and coastal aesthetic, it's cool to have a water-based sports game. And I like how, even in this world that's consistently rammed and rimmed by sin, they have shitsball to bring people together and help them forget that sin might eat their entire village tomorrow. Anyway, we get our shit kicked in, so here are some clips from my last time with it, when I actually won the game somehow.
Shoot. Jet shot. Whoa. Holy shit. Yes! Oh god. Baseball's fucking boring, bro.
Ah, it's Wakka!
Brother, we won! It's like watching an England game.
Look, this one, man, I could learn it, I know. I just don't bloody well want to. Blitzball is the drizzling shitsball. I'm never playing it again. It's done. If it's in FFX2, I'm destroying the Albed's home again. Either way, the blitzball game goes to hell because they always do right after it finishes. But luckily Auron turns up and helps us out. At this point I realise my power spheres are maxed out to 99 of them, so I'm actually wasting them. As such, we are abandoning the no sphere grid challenge. We lasted till the end of the Luca section. Did I do good? In fact, if there's any Final Fantasy experts, is that good? Did I do good with that? Probably not, it was fairly easy. Seymour uses some wanky bondage monster, an Aeon named Anima, who we'll acquire later, to help us out. The scene with Auron and Tidus has so many layers too. Auron says he, Jecht and Braska, Yuna's dad, defeated Sin 10 years ago, that Jecht is Sin now, and Tidus doesn't know what to do with this, to which Auron is nicer to him than expected. Auron probably is the closest thing old Diddy has to a daddy, with his dad absent, and Auron knows this, I think. Auron treats him nicer than Jecht ever did. Either way, the choreography, the music, the voice acting, dialogue, it's all peak here. It's peak Final Fantasy X, and a watershed moment in the game. Auron helps Diddy become a proper guardian for Yuna, and he'll become it with us. Who wouldn't be happy to have someone named Diddy become their guardian, eh? We reach Mihen High Road, which is very high up and symbolic, I think, of us crossing a threshold, acting as an analogue for this narrative moment as well. And Auron's theme is so good. Not somber, not upbeat, a bit of both, just right, just pure Auron. Yeah, he's my favourite. Riku and Yuna are great too, but he's just a cut above the rest for me. I do love Riku though, she reminds me of Yuffie. I wonder if they've ever met in a spin-off game, Riku and Yuffie. Ruki? Yiku? Ruki? Now you might be wondering, Luke, what about the laughing scene? Where's the 2-hour analysis of the laughing scene? I don't know, you tell me. Like, what about it? It's just a silly scene about laughing at all the crazy shit. It's just a meme at this point. Why would I even... I mean, there are no Noctis and Luna, but I guess it's alright. Mihen High Road. The song is good. Feels like if a kangaroo was a musical instrument. Also, I like Mushroom Rock. The enemies are bastards and can petrify you, and are hard to hit, but Wakka is an MVP here. Anything you can't hit, he'll just throw a blitzball at it. So I'm actually glad blitzball exists. I wish he'd use that spiky blitzball against our enemies in blitzball, and we could just murder people and win that way, but apparently that's against the laws of blitzball. So Operation Mihen is the Crusaders and the Albed's attempt to take down Sin, obviously in vain, but they are using Machina, which Wakka doesn't like. And we gotta fight this thing. He's cheap and regenerates his arms, and his head, after you destroy him. But we have Queef and Nigel, so he's a cakewalk. It's doable without summons, but I like to fight cheap with cheap, and we will do this a lot later with a move that starts with Z, by a guy named Yojimbo. Then the operation goes to hell. Loads of people die. Sin vaporizes them. It's brutal. This scene, however, on the beach is even more poignant than Kilika, because it had a chance to really build up and get you invested within it, and the use of Wandering Flame is incredible. Kimari then does this.
Kimari, try too.
Smile, let me see. Sad.
He's trying his best, Diddy. We can't all be the life of the party.
Must be tough, Yuna.
I'll be fine with you here.
The Jose Temple exists, and so does a guide for it on YouTube. That was easy.
I'm so sorry. Oh.
Your hair.
A summoner with bad hair. What's the world coming to?
You could have woken me up.
We called to you, but with all that snoring.
What is it today? Everyone's picking on me. You too, Sir Auron?
Once Lady Yuna fixes her hair, we leave.
Movement in Green is the song's name here, and it's beautiful. Pensive but hopeful and upbeat, just like our party. I mentioned it in my FF15 video, one of my favourite videos I made actually. The old FF games had specific songs for specific things. It's great when the song matches with the vibe of the story at the time. It brings everything together into a synthesis, makes it come alive. Video games. I like these things. I like wanky elephants that smoke too many fireflies. The Albed are trying to kidnap Yuna again, and Wakka levels up his racism with the racism sphere with the line of the game.
Those sand-blasted grease monkeys.
Speaking of which, Riku arrives, and the party is complete. We have our customary Albed for diversity. Auron figures out who she is real quick, and now we can all be a stupid dysfunctional family together for the rest of the game. I love old JRPGs. 4 dudes, 3 ladies, endless potential for character dynamics. It's just 7 weird people on a pilgrimage to the end of the world. Warriors on the edge of time. Not just one dude with some sidekicks. Riku reinforces Albed stereotypes now by showcasing her steal move. And apparently I stole over 200 things because I got a trophy for it about 50 hours later. So, the tree people. Seymour asks Yuna to marry him, you know, for Spira, and totally not because she's pretty and he wants to hit that, after showing us Yuna Leska, the first summoner who defeated Sin and lived in Zanarkand 1,000 years ago. He also mentions Auron smelling like the farplane. In the farplane, Tidus floats the idea of Lulu getting with Wakka. I'm a big fan of the creative use of conduits and storytelling using disparate elements and aspects to elevate one another. So when I recalled Auron's character arc entailing his struggle to move on as an unsent, my eyes lit up like, oh shit, I'm gonna write about that. Auron is an unsent, kind of like a zombie, but mainly in the metaphysical. I say that because there's a status ailment called zombie in this game and I want to differentiate. The farplane, powered in part by the Fireflies, is a place that Auron won't enter because he's yet to accept his death. So in the world of Spira, you can say that there are 3 states of being from an ontological perspective, ontology being the study of being in metaphysics. You have the living, the dead, the unsent. The unsent are interesting because they can interact with the world of the living and make an impression upon it like any living person. And while I do often lament this disregard for the concept of death in JRPGs, alongside its lack of finality, it's done so well in this game's case, especially Auron's, that the lack of finality elevates the experience because it's written so well. For the lore of the game, the world building, the characters, elevates it all. The unsent, as no doubt specified by the game, are those who, upon dying, still cling on to life due to a deep emotional attachment. It's ontological in the sense that it raises questions on existence and the finality of death, and even cosmological in that there exists a place within the home of the Guado, you know, the tree people, called the farplane, which presents itself as physical matter and is accessed via the material world, but acts as a liminal space between life and death, wherein people can interact with aspects of the dead. In that vein, it brings about questions regarding the universe as well as its origin, and this is before we even realize Tidus is literally a dream of the faith who gave their lives for Yevon to fight Sin, even though he bloody well created Sin. What's the most interesting about all of this is that it puts the focus back on the character of Auron, funnily enough, even in spite of all of these fantasy things like the farplane and the Fireflies that conjure up the illusions of the dead that we perceive. The way it does this is not by revealing exactly the origin or the nature of these mystical Fireflies or the farplane. The game never goes into it, because it doesn't have to, because what matters here, the most, is the effect it has on the characters, like Auron. And the game still tells us enough to satisfy the needs of any reasonable-minded inquisitor, while allowing still for an element of mystery to persist. It gets the balance right. And you can see it as he won't dare go near the farplane due to being unsent, and how it gives him physical pain. This place also speaks to our human inability to move on as well, which I think the game is trying to get at, which is definitely true, but they nevertheless participate in the facade. There's a catharsis there still, though, innit? Oh, very bloody relatable. It's a beautifully told story. But then they made the Thunder Planes. Thunder Planes is a drag because you have to dodge lightning every few seconds or so, and the encounter rate is nuts. It is nuts! But it looks nice and Riku's funny. She crawls along the ground like a spider because she's scared of lightning. The enemies will surprise you here and force you into the sphere grid with the speed of an F1 Mercedes. Yuna then tells us she plans on marrying Seymour. Ooh. In this section we'll discuss Jecht and Tidus' relationship, the Braska prequel game that's never going to happen, and Wakka's racism. A very wholesome chapter indeed. Instead of talking about the purpliness of Marcolania Woods, I'll just say it's very special as a location, and I think it just feels like a proper old JRPG. Magical, unnatural colours, deeply saturated but not too much, made to look natural either way, cozy, enclosed in a way that feels safe and also mystical and adds mystery. Keeps you on your toes, but you could fall asleep there at the same time. That's the beauty of the old JRPG. There's something otherworldly about it. I'm going off script, I don't care. There's something otherworldly about it that you just can't pinpoint or quantify with any word in your lexicon. You just feel it. It's completely phenomenological. It's perfect. And I think of this mystical thing whenever I think of the game. There's a game called Dragonstar Varnia that's very similar with its aesthetic. Nobody would watch a video of me doing it, and yet I'm still going to do it. Because that vibe is just peak JRPG. And games like Final Fantasy X help to establish this. They set so many precedents in the gaming landscape. And I know they weren't the first, but they did it like nobody else. This old school JRPG vibe. That's why I keep making allusions to it. The Jecht sphere here humanizes Jecht and shows the softer side. And it will show that very well the more of these spheres you collect. Not that it excuses how he treated Tidus, but Jecht is painfully realistic and has trouble expressing himself, though he really does care. I like this guy. I also understand why some don't, but the likelihood is that they didn't immediately run back from Makalania Woods and spend 2 hours getting 9 of the 10 Jecht spears to see this, or even do it in the postgame. When he taunts Tidus for crying, it sucks to watch, but I think this shows very well how, even with good intentions, he's just a bit of a dumbass sometimes, this Jecht. Maybe he thinks it's the best way to get his son to toughen up. He wants him to be a star blitzball player, as good as his old man. He's just not very emotionally intelligent. So he's trying to do what he thinks is for Tidus' own good, but it's obviously not the right way to go about it, since Tidus now hates him and has nightmares about it. But they do love each other, hence the hand slap at the end where they give it the old low five. There's just a lot of baggage there from both. I also like the parallels between the two, and how they both use the journey to grow as men. I don't think people fully understand or appreciate Tidus and Jecht's dynamic, and how they obviously care for one another a great deal. The worst for me is Tidus' mother and how she favoured her man over her kid, but she's barely touched upon in the story and quite irrelevant. On the topic of the spears, I love the mini arc of Braska, Auron and Jecht and their adventure. People have wanted the prequel of this for a while. Absolutely, so do I. But the Berkshire bubble, it's not happening. And if it does, I'll come back to this video and I'll put up a community post saying I'm a twat and I'll do a face reveal. Actually, no. They might. Still, can't see it happening. 2 middle-aged men and a slightly less middle-aged man and younger Auron may be based, but it ain't exactly archetypical Square Enix with their target demographic. But it is a great time to mention how incredible the voice acting is. This was the first fully voice-acted FF game, and it set the precedent for how good the English dubs would be going forward. They fit the characters perfectly, and they bring them to life, all the way up to 16, the latest release as of now. This has always been the case. At the lake, the owl bed give it another go with the crawler, and if you want an easy time of it, take out the floaty thingy and use Ixion's overdrive. I've got an overkill for quad 9s in one hit. So after we twat him, Wakka learns that Riku is an owl bed and gets angry, to which Riku tells him to think for himself. On that note, it is now time for everyone's favourite topic, racism. Let's talk about Wakka and the old bed. It's one-dimensional and crap, honestly, the way this is written. And it's generic, but it's also very funny. His insults are very creative and he's very passionate about his hatred and he gives it his all. Really though, his reason for being the way he is makes sense in his head, right? But it's still very cookie cutter and safe and it doesn't have any nuance or criticality to it. Just a bit of racist dude slowly learns that people aren't all the same. It's not cutting edge, and it's about as predictable as the game's one-dimensional critique of religion as well, which focuses solely on the bad and then has you kill God, or some god-like being. So yeah, in a game that's very honest and mature for the most part, this, I guess, is the one area where some nuance would have been nice. It's literally just, I'm racist because I'm religious. And then, happy festival fireworks, brother. It's a caricature of racial issues, societal, socio-political ones. Very similar to Trails Through Daybreak 2, in that the subtleties of this sometimes socio-political, sometimes theological issue are dumbed down in a way that adds nothing new and gives no cutting-edge commentary on the topic. Honestly, my idea on this, and you may disagree, is that if you're going to touch on religion and politics and race, make sure you have something interesting and fresh to say. Otherwise you're just rehashing stuff and it's boring. Bring something cutting edge, you know what I mean? I know it's difficult these days, but if you're not going to do that, why even touch it? What's the point? And that's the way I like to parody Wakka. I do wonder if there'll be people who actually think I'm racist because of it. Do you reckon there was anyone out there who actually got offended by Wakka? Leave the old bed alone. I bet there was a few, right? But what I'm actually offended by is how lazy this arc was written. And what I'm really making fun of, I guess, is how safely they wrote him, while probably thinking they were edgy. But hey, they probably made someone angry. I wonder if the sandblasted line sent anyone into a tizzy. Probably not, but it would be funny. But I'm kind of glad it's such a cardboard cutout interpretation of the issue, because now I don't gotta unload my political takes onto my video essay like so many others do. I already have to talk about Hit Detection LLC in my FF7 Remake Part 3 video. I've been putting that off. Not looking forward to it, but for now we are in the clear. Hey. But in case you're wondering, my political leaning is this. Whichever side makes white chocolate milkshake free, you've got my vote. See? I'm the world's happiest guy. Also, there's an affinity mechanic, and it dictates who hops on your snowmobile, and for some reason it's always Lulu for me. Seymour's dad left a sphere, saying Seymour killed him. Must have overcooked the steamed hams. And he's using Yevon, the Guado and the Summoners to bring the destruction and chaos that he needs to destroy Spira. Man, to think this guy with his theme song would be a baddie. I'm shocked, I tell you. Really shocked. Can't believe it.
How many stakes you think we can get out of these?
So Seymour is a 2-barrel endeavour in the first fight with him, and he has 2 bum buddies flanking him left and right. But Auron can hilariously eject them with his overdrive. We can also talk during battle for the first time to grant ourselves a stat increase, which is funny. The bum does cast Protect, so I bring out Nigel to annoy them back while Seymour casts Shell. I'm surprised my summons are doing quad 9s when I haven't even touched the upgrade thingy for him yet. Then Seymour summons Anima, who's annoying because like most bosses, he's immune to most things. This is just old JRPGs in a nutshell. Bosses always feel somewhat cheap, I guess. Seymour's second form has less HP, but multicast spells, and wiped 2 of my 3 party members with multi-watt error. So I figured screw you cheap ass bollocks, heed my call, Sneed. But then Sneed died, and so did we. But we ain't gonna cope. Here's the thing about old JRPG boss battles. If you ain't reading the guide, then the little idiosyncrasies of each battle will be unknown to you until after you've had your ass blasted with them, and I've never liked that. Every battle is its own algorithm of bullshit, in a way. It's also a huge difficulty spike, which is not good game design, ever. So I guess it's half and half. I like that there are tactics involved, but in boss battles it becomes less fair, and your tactics revolve around dampening the cheapness of whatever unfair stuff the boss throws at you, like a multicast spell that you haven't seen until that specific fight, or a free stage battle for the first time. I think difficulty should increase gradually and naturally and fairly. Sometimes in this game, even if you've leveled well and learned the system, it'll still mess you up by introducing new things that you probably have to die from in order to learn how to deal with. Like, I know Magic Break is good at this point, and that Yuna can cast null spells, but the only reason I say any of this is simple: unskippable cutscenes. If it wasn't for that, I'd shrug it off and just go again. So if I seem more annoyed at something in a way that doesn't quite seem commensurate with it, that's context that I think is important. You can't skip the cutscenes before the battle. You're back to the save sphere, you gotta go back there, you've gotta watch the cutscene again, and then you get to go again. And the battle's very slow paced as well, you know, there's no turbo mode either. It's worse later during the Yuna Leska fight, and while unpausable, unskippable cutscenes in an early 2000s game is one thing, having it be present in the remaster is the archetypical laziness that you can often attribute to modern publishers. Either way, we time it better, we take some risks, we beat him on our second attempt, getting Shiva as an Aeon, whom we call Gooch. They stick a Cloister of Trials immediately after this, which is just sinister, by the way. But for us it's a YouTube tutorial to victory. With Seymour dead, the Guado destroyed the evidence and we ran away, falling through the ice. I swear every conversation between Auron and Tidus is like 10 out of 10 dialogue writing. Their dynamic is great.
I mean, can't you be a little more responsible? We're all depending on you, you know?
A lecture.
No. Just a suggestion.
You should place trust in your friends. But you can't expect someone to protect you all the time. You would do well to remember that.
Is that a lecture?
It's advice.
This song is beautiful. Sometimes I wonder if it served as inspiration for FF12, which I look forward to covering, actually. I'm looking forward to giving it another go. It conveys the barely lucid haze of being boiling hot and that midday malaise, the dissociative state in midday, like a place that's half asleep but more alive than anything else, in a way that could actually kill you. Or maybe it's just a desert, but hey, gotta tick off all the geographical archetypes. Tropical beaches, deserts, snowy mountains later, we're doing them all. It's difficult though, specifically in the inner areas on account of Yuna's absence, but the game throws like a million Albed potions at you. What isn't fun is Tidus finding out Yuna will die after performing the final summoning. I think this is the first time it becomes obvious that Tidus loves her as well. Didi resolves to save Yuna so she doesn't have to die, and the Albed help us out, so we have an airship now, but not properly, that's for later. God, this airship fingers donkeys. The layout is so stupid. This place is some of the worst game design I've ever seen. It doesn't let you save after the long dragon fight in the ship, which has 32,000 HP. And after that you have a gauntlet of flamethrower dudes, and riflemen, and Albed Machina. God damn Albed. And that Machina can randomly hit Thrust Kick, which ejects party members from battle. At one point it used that kick twice in a row and I was left with one party member against him. Quick thinking, however, and not neglecting anyone in the sphere grid helped me out of this, but had I not taken out the others first, I'd have lost about an hour of playtime. It's a terrible oversight. It's similar to FF7 and the Gee Cave. Save points are not complex mechanics. You stick one in a place and you use it to save. Damn it. It's not negated with tactical thinking. It's completely luck based, whether or not these things kick you into the stratosphere. Power break, armor break, magic break, slow, haste, grab them by the balls, twist them. Nope, all luck. None of that will work. We're in Bevel though, because we got to stop Yuna from marrying Seymour. because she deserves to have someone who cares about her. Like, dumbass here. Because he's more persistent and deaf than he was in life. He's on scent now, so he looks like a slightly more dried up tree than before. And he takes Yuna's first kiss. You can clench that fist all you want, Yuna. I saw you kiss him back. You didn't have to do that. Does anybody else notice that? She actually kissed him back. She got into it. I'm telling you, man. If I was Tidus, I'd be bringing that up. Nah, you go with him. Go see in the trees. Go bark up his tree. After the ruse, we escape in one of the coolest scenes in the series. Cloister Trials. Boo. I swear just hearing that music is a PTSD episode. Especially this one with a floaty platform. But we do get Bahamut, whom we call Friend. He's our good friend. The High Court of Yevon reveals itself to be very corrupt. It's not at all surprising, even one of the main dudes in charge is an unsent, like Seymour. Basically they're hypocrites and corrupt and they imprison us. After so long without Yuna, it's suddenly Yuna only, and we have our white mage back. This song and this place is Via Purifico, and it's one of the best songs in the game. And in the franchise, and literally anything else ever. We're alone with Yuna, who's alone in many ways herself in this point in the story. The song's tragic, we've been betrayed by the people in charge of the world, we're on a death march anyway, and I think this location, deep underground, and this song, with the pensive piano, all combined to make it something genuinely incredible. It's very similar to when you enter Solia Springs in 13 for the first time, but with added narrative weight, incredible stuff. The dungeon itself is typical. It's a tricky, puzzly nonsense dungeon from the early 2000s, except the free Aeon battles. They're very fun, and we get to give Gooch and Fred a test run, meaning Shiva and Bahamut. Bahamut's mental. Good thing he's our friend. I should have called him Dion. Shiva could have been Jill. Kimi tries to save us from Seymour, and we run. But then Yuna and Diddy decide to go back and help him. Seymour's a wanky demon now. Beating wanky stone Seymour is easy if you poison him, and then call upon an Aeon, and so we escape. That's Seymour twice beaten now. In Macalania we have maybe the most popular scene in the game. It's the floaty, magical water kiss scene. The build-up's great, and honestly, I know I moaned about FF games and romance, but I'm just a jaded bastard. You know, I can't be fixed. And this is done really well in the game, so I'll give it credit for that, I will. I like actually that a protagonist of a JRPG canonically makes a move on the pretty girl and actually gets a kiss out of it. It's a rare sight when you play Trails for years, where the protagonist is just scared of women. So it's great, even if they do look like completely different people in CGI land, and Tidus' smile creeps me out. That said, cinematography, exceptional here. There's this genre of YouTubers that popped up these last few years that I like to call the My Final Fantasy Whatever Experience people. You know what I mean? It mainly just consists of women crying over Final Fantasy games in the thumbnails. It's like, oh god, this scene, like, they'll start the game and boot it up and they'll start crying already, and it's like, it's just a title screen, lady, it's okay. It's gonna be alright. And this one definitely made him all cry, I bet you. So I'm giving it my seal of approval. And I'm also giving it 10 women crying out of 10. Once again, the game does things in a mature way. It doesn't insult my intelligence. What little of it I have with harem stuff, or a protagonist so skittish or weird because he has to be relatable to the lowest common denominator like me. It's tastefully done. It's fantastic. I love Yuna and Tidus' relationship. I called him Tidus. Oh god. As an aside, it's not in the script, but I always thought it was Tidus because tide is like water. And water is like FF10 is water, the video game. I was shocked. I was so shocked when I found out it was called Tidus, I just shat myself in the middle of Tesco. Welcome to the Arc-Hilt Step of Grand Pulse, aka the Arc Light Step as people call it for some reason, aka the Carblands actually. I can't believe they copied Final Fantasy XIII so blatantly here. They should be ashamed of themselves. It's shameful is what it is. You've just completely copied Final Fantasy XIII's Arc-Hilt Step. I can't believe like how creatively bankrupt they are. We're mainly ignoring monster capture. By this point in the game you're likely 30 hours in at least, and it's introduced way too late. JRPGs are very long already. Stop taking liberties with my time. Actually keep doing it because it's deep and each area has a set amount of monsters and monster types. And to catch them, you gotta get a weapon with a catcher ability and deal the final blow with that weapon. And you can change your weapon on the fly in battle, it just costs a turn to do so. And your armor, it's a fantastic system. Learn something new about it each time you play. Get monsters, get rewards. Simple, but good for those who need excuses not to put a game down. I like the depth here, but again, introducing it while burnout is potentially setting in seems a poor choice in my eyes. I think it should have been introduced way at the beginning. We could have grabbed so many by now, but now we gotta go back if we want the really good stuff. It'll be easy enough to do, but we could have learned the system really good. Also optional is the celestial weapons feature, ultimate weapons, basically. The minigames attached to them though are maddening, so once again, I don't bother. It's like the game's shit testing you. You don't have to get them, you can complete the game without them, especially if you did grab the Wings to Discovery and the Chocobo minigame in the Calmlands, which I did. Still, if you want to, have fun dodging 200 lightning bolts in a row, and also dodging evil shitty birds while riding your Chocobo that has a mind of its own, and many other things that test one's sanity, including butterflies. But I think it's a net positive. I think it's more depth in an already deep game, and while it does rely on a guide, for the most part, with all of this crazy stuff, it's a JRPG from the early 2000s. The Cabin of the Stolen Faith is worth a gander because Yojimbo is in there. I spent a long time grinding him down. If Pendulum didn't release a new album for me to listen to, I'd have probably gone insane in this game, because after I grinded him down after ages, he ZANMATO's me. So I break the covenant and I mixed my first 2 Wings to Discovery to show him how it feels with a trio of quad 9s.
Piece of shit, ZANMATO on me. If you ZANMATO me. Eat shit, you hat-wearing motherfucker. Your hat looks like a wanky fucking pizza. Eat my fucking shit. Innit? Wanker.
Self-explanatory, I'd say. Everything you do when you mix one of them does 9,999 damage. And healing stuff does the same but for healing. The mechanics of acquiring him are anal, and I think they were developed by Einstein, but the simple version is offer 125,001 gil, then 112,501, then 141,751, and then 190,350 gil. Weirdly, I had a little over 190,000 at this point, which saved me some grinding. Yay, we call them cheap ass. The song here is really, really good, and I've said that a lot, but it really is. One of the best in the game. This is where the Ronso live. Masashi made this song as well. Kimi gets his cool moment here, beating up the 2 bigger Ronso wankers, and if you neglected Kimari, this is where you'll be punished for it, but not too much, because the game does scale them. Luckily, we took Kimari down Lulu's path instead of Riku's. Having him steal things is fun, but having a second black mage for the majority of the game is something I could not pass up. I also like the thematic implications of this one, with the one last descent on our journey up the mountain before descending back down into Zanarkand, our seemingly final destination. Like it's truly the end, and everything is downhill from here, for these lovable characters that we've grown to love. Seymour Fight Free. Cheap with cheap, like I always say. We find the Faith and Diddy is transported to his Zanarkand in a dreamscape. I love these dream sequences with a Twilight song playing. Diddy's home is cool, reminds me of Lightning's home from Final Fantasy XIII. God, they're copying Final Fantasy XIII again, I can't believe it. I imagine he threw a lot of parties here, and this little dude, believe it or not, is Bahamut's Faith. He tells us that we're a dream. He tells us about the war between Zanarkand and Bavel 1,000 years ago, and Zanarkand was getting his ass kicked. And so the Faith conjured up a dream Zanarkand. And so Tidus' home is essentially a dream of what Zanarkand used to be. Tidus, jecht, both dreams as well. Years ago I completed this game without many cheap tricks, but I no longer care about proving myself. Even if I was bad at a game, the fun I have is what matters to me. So when I met the Sanctuary Keeper and noticed that he heals for quad 9 health regularly, I decided
way you never touched me before.
I decided to screw him over like I screwed over Seymour. It's cheap shit, I know, but a boss that's already super hard, healing for nearly 10k health, is obnoxious. So true of quad 9s, strapped to slice and dice. Bye bye, shithead keeper. So we're back to the opening scene, and we've earned our comprehension of events, and what a journey this game has been. And it's still not over. And this is one of the most beautiful things in all of gaming, I think. In FF13 in Erba, I think, they played the music that doesn't stop for battle card. That one was called Dust to Dust. It's a favourite of mine from the 13 soundtrack. And damn it, they've copied 13 again. They can't keep getting away with it. A Fleeting Dream is a wonderful song. The night sky as the sun goes down on this long, epic adventure, at least for now. The mystery of Zanarkand itself, the combination of the journey, the stars, the finality in the music. For all the faults that these long JRPGs have, this is one of the best things about them. That length filters everyone but the people who genuinely resonate with an experience to the point where they're willing to go all the way with it. I say moments like this are greater rewards for them than any sphere, item or weapon, or even Aeon. Following Jecht and Braska and Auron spectres up to Unalaska, with them all appearing ghost-like, is phenomenal. It's a great use of creativity. It's a really profound moment and it illustrates the parallels of our respective journey, as well as the cyclical nature of the world of Spira, and how it interweaves with the narrative. And now Unalaska. Jecht, before, 10 years ago, became the final Aeon, and eventually became Sin, after defeating him. So we try to talk to Unalaska to reason with her, but she talks of death being a liberator, similar to what Seymour says. Spira's antagonists are basically just doomers, so we fight her instead.
Let me be your liberator.
Now! This is it! Now is the time to choose. Die and be free of pain, or live and fight your sorrow. Now is the time to shape your stories. Your fate is in your hands.
Unalaska mentions that Yevon will create Sin anew anyway, but whatever, we'll think of a way. We're out of here for now. After the fight though, pick up the Suncrest. It's just one floor down. That is if you're on the remaster, because if you come back later and miss it, Dark Bahamut will be in your way. And the airship is ours. Post-game time. It is what you want it to be. The entire world is open to us now, with new places included. This is what the vast majority of us wish that Final Fantasy XIII had done. A straight shot through a linear story at first, which later opens up, allowing you to visit a few new areas, and also do a ton of side activities, and also revisit old areas, with new things to do in them. And Dark Aeons and super bosses. Endeavour to go all in on this stuff and you'll be fine for the final boss. Also getting tens of more hours of game time. More than anything though, it's a chance to fully experience and actualise the world of Spira, which is one of my favourite worlds in a game. It's awesome to see it from above, and we know now that we can drop in anywhere we want to. It looks really pretty from above. I just hate how the map spins constantly. It's annoying. There's a game that spins. Atelier Rorona. During combat, spins. Sorry, just reminded me. No, it wasn't in the script. If there wasn't already a blueprint for how to strike that perfect balance in a Final Fantasy game between linear and open, this is that blueprint. This is the one they need to follow. Certain things could have been implemented a little earlier, but, well, all in all, fantastic way of doing things. Just common sense. We start by inputting passwords to unlock every area, and then we go collect the free stuff. We're not doing Dark Aeons today. The game already took me 2.5 weeks to beat. I have a time frame, I can't spend 2 months on a game. I'm gonna get videos out. There are also automatically unlocked areas that are just smaller areas of cool treasure, like the waterfall in Besaid with the chest that annoyed me about 50 hours ago. Then it's back to Barge Temple, which is where we landed in Spira at the start. Not just for revenge against the sea monster, but also to pick up Anima, on account of getting all 6 destruction spheres at the cloisters. But Anima has an overdrive called Oblivion that can break the quad 9 cap if you level them up. Actually, my favourite is Fren, Bahamut, although I become really endeared to Valafor. He's the weakest of the Aeons, I think, but I don't know man, something about Queef and me, we just got this tight bond. I'd bring him out just to use him. We do it in a bit, I'll tell you about it. After that is the hidden post-game dungeon, the Omega Ruins, which will ruin you if you're underleveled, but it's a great place to prepare for the endgame. And the song there is dope as well. The finale is a gauntlet, multiple Sin fights, a Seymour fight, Jecht, as Braska's final Aeon, and then a victory lap with a bug. Sin works in 4 phases, but the difficult one is the final one with Overdrive Sin. In the first phase, that's when I used Valor for. The final one has 400... What? Does he? No fucking way. No fucking way he has 400,000 HP. Did I must have made a mistake. Yeah, it's 140,000. Dumbass. I knew I got that wrong. 400,000. Well, he has 140,000 HP and he's a great endgame filter, and I'm leaving that in just so you can see how much 140,000 still has. You gotta kill him before his drive charges. So, guess what? I told you, game. You do cheap shit, I do cheap shit. That's how it works. I'm a man. Man shit, mate. So anyway, Seymour round 4, and I'm sick of him. He's a pretty crap villain, honestly, but the real villain is Yevon anyway. Seymour was annoying, and he was obviously a bad guy, and they gave him a creepy song, and then they expected us to be surprised when he turned out to be bad, and we had to kill him 4 times. Yuna finally sends him this time. I won't miss him. Still, out of all the Final Fantasy games I've covered, and I know I've covered mainly the modern ones, plus, 10 and 7, I really think that the best villain in all of Final Fantasy so far for me is Caius Ballard, FF13-2 in Lightning Returns. Well, I hear we've got some good villains coming up in the older games, so I'm interested in that. I think Final Fantasy VI has a good one. Some sort of clown. Is this clown wanker? Looking forward to him. But Seymour? No. We steam his hams and he's dead. We finally meet Jecht inside a sin, and he and Tidus have a nice moment where Tidus says that he hates him, which probably sounds like an oxymoron, but he loves him too. They love each other, but Tidus finally managed to tell him that he hates him for what he did to him. Jecht's theme song is Otherworld. It's the blitzball song from the early game. This boss shouldn't be too hard, since you made it here to begin with, but it's 2 stages, and the annoying thing is this stupid thingy where you gotta collect crystals for like 5 minutes before the battle, because the save point was before that. It's so stupid. And the annoying thing is there's a tiny bit of gameplay where you literally just walk about 5 steps toward Jecht. They could have put a bloody save crystal there. Oh, if I was a modder, that would be the only mod that I would make. Save crystal before Jecht. It would get loads of downloads, I assure you. I assure you. But yeah, the ending is nice. I lost the footage this time, but I do still have most of it from the last playthrough, luckily. We defeat Yevon, who's now nothing more than some freaky bug thing, and Yuna's Aeons all go away. It's a great scene. After that, Tidus realizes that he has to go, and he and Yuna part ways. And a scene that probably made most of the ladies cry very much. And some dudes. And I like that when Tidus returns to the Ether, or wherever it is he came from, the dream, Braska, Auron and Jecht are all waiting there for him. I think he combines those 2 cool things, the father-son story, the romance story with Tidus and Yuna, and how it's basically everyone's story when it comes down to it. But yeah, Jecht and Tidus share that low 5. I think it implies some level of forgiveness and understanding towards his dad, because Jecht does soften up on Tidus near the end. You can tell he cares, he's just a bit of an idiot. Like father, like son. Yuna gives a speech to a blitzball stadium like when John Cena announced that Bin Laden had died on an episode of Monday Night Raw. And the final scene is Yuna whistling out to the sea, like Tidus taught her to. Especially with this scene, it's right up there with FF15 in terms of emotional endings. It really brings the epic adventure to a perfect conclusion. It really was rooted in these characters and their relationships with one another. Tidus does still have to go away, and there's no getting him back, at least until FF10-2 ruins that. Wait, does this mean I have to cover 10-2 as well? Oh crap, I'll have to actually play it.
I mean, it's good, but it's no Final Fantasy 16, I'll say that.
I can't think of a better Final Fantasy game in terms of how its story is told, and the characters that we meet within it. Only game's as good. It's right up there with the absolute best in this series. I love the emphasis on a mature, grounded story, with characters that are realistic and also a bit mental, and character dynamics that make everyone feel like one big weird family. That's just pure JRPG stuff in it. And then there's the S-rank music, the art direction, the lore, the aesthetics. And now I've come to truly understand it, it's likely in my top 3 FF games of all time. I think people forget that gaming back in the early 2000s was such a deeply personal experience, but I think we're also guilty of forgetting just how archaic some games were. 10 is no stranger to this, but that's what makes it special to me. I think many others too. Almost only the hardcore nerds played games back then, so developers weren't afraid to drop the most infuriating shite into their games. Things such as catch 2 million lightning bolts up the ass and eat 1 million butterflies in a sandwich. This stuff was commonplace if you wanted the super wumba bumba weapons. And I guess I'm saying that Final Fantasy X has a lot of annoying little quirks, but in an odd twist of fate, I found myself loving it all the more because of them. I've never seen a game so at peace with itself, even for all the cloister trial stuff that feels like the digital equivalent of washing the dishes without hands. Every element of this game washes over me with sea and sunshine, in a way that cleanses me of any righteous indignation I might otherwise feel for the terrible old JRPG isms that have thrown the way of the player. There is happiness in sadness, and vice versa, and FF10 is the ultimate analogue for this, given that our characters are on somewhat of a perceived death march, while simultaneously having the time of their lives and enjoying every moment of it that they possibly can. And if we're on the topic of analogues and analogies, there's your metaphor for life. FF10 is the conduit, linking the best of a series previously on older consoles with the voice-acted, fully 3D Holy Land of the PS2, while attempting to preserve the charm and the unique appeal of the series, so it doesn't get lost during the trip, like it did with Crash and Spyro. Can't say it's perfect, because nothing is, and some drawbacks include the insanely grindy stuff in the late game, let alone the post game. With postgame it's understandable because that's for the hardcores, but even just facing the final boss requires deliberate grinding on a level that I'd be upset about a lot more if Wings to Discovery and ZANMATO did not exist. But therein lies the two sides of the same old JRPG coin, in that it's awkward and annoying how esoteric it is, but also simultaneously mitigates that at times by being creative and in-depth in a way that's equally idiosyncratic and annoying and good. I can't say enough good things about the multitude of ways in which this game is impossibly fucking beautiful, but I think the fact that I've almost completely forgiven it for all the annoying stuff says more than words ever could. It's fucking annoying, and it's fucking incredible. Yep, I'll do it. Be safe. Try not to die.
I'm Yuna. Thank you so much for your help earlier. Do you think I can become High Summoner? So, tomorrow then.
Tomorrow?
We're going on the same boat, aren't we?
Oh, really?
We can talk more.
Huh.
You can tell me all about ZANMATO.